Hi everyone, my name is Junon. I have a health science background and I'm the author of the book Truth and Empathy, How to Find Your Soulmate. And I'll put a link to the book below. This video is a romantic compatibility analysis between INFJs and INTPs. Most people have probably heard that certain personality types get along better with others, but there are some confusion because sometimes they say, well, opposites attract, or if a person really wants to get along with another person, the work is enough, and be able to compromise will make it work. But based on my observations, it's usually not the case. So it's good to understand brain types or personality types to know who would be a best match, especially when it comes to the romantic compatibility area. So if we look at the areas where INFJs and INTPs would overlap or get along well, is that first of all, they're both intuitives. So these are people who are interested in abstract thought, so it has to do with the future. The INTP has extroverted intuition as its second function, whereas the INFJ has introverted intuition as its first function. So if we compare that, is that the INTP is interested in exploring ideas. So these are people who are very curious. So you'll see that they'll have areas where they'll be able to discuss different types of topics. So these are individuals who are very much sort of interested in the intellect. So they like to do mental acrobatics, we would say. So that will be an area of interest that they'll be able to share. But the INFJ is more intuitive than the INTP. So the INFJ has a theta brain of dominance, whereas the INTP has alpha brain dominance. So you will see that the INTP, although he's an intuitive, but doesn't go as deep as the INFJ. The other point where they probably will get along is that they're both introverts. So the fact that they're intuitives already means that their energy is pretty good, so they will probably need time alone to recharge. But the fact that they are intuitive on top of that means that these are people who really need to sort of distance themselves from others to actually recharge, so that they will have that in common. So they probably want to spend time alone, like alone or with one of the people, so or maybe spend time together. The other point where they would fare well has to do with the fact that the INFJ has introverted thinking as its third function, whereas obviously the INTP has introverted thinking as its first function. So they are very much interested in the internal logic of any argument or any system, so they will be able to get along that well, because when you look at the intuitive feelers, the INFJ has the most balanced brain, but also is the most logical. So they were able to discuss, let's say, math, science together, and they were able to actually understand each other that way. The other aspect is that being in both intuitives means that there are not as many people that they can sort of discuss different ideas with. So the sense of feeling different, feeling sort of not well understood by others or being misunderstood will be an area where they can share. But the other areas where they will have issues with is the fact that, first of all, the INTP is left brain dominant, so which means that they're not really in touch with their feelings, so it's difficult for them to maybe understand subtleties about a situation on an emotional level. So the INFJ will feel that they can't really connect emotionally, spiritually with the INTP. The other major point of probably discord might be the fact that the INTP is usually an atheist, whereas the INFJ, obviously the INFJ includes people like Jesus Christ, Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi. I mean, these are all people who are very spiritual, so they won't be able to connect on that level. So the only way that, say, the INFJ can discuss many of these topics that are not, let's say, based on the five senses, it has to be through the lens of science and math, because people might say, well, someone is an atheist, but everyone has to believe in something, because if we don't have some kind of like core beliefs, we are unable to make even simple decisions in our life. So whether or not to stay in a job, whether or not to end a relationship, whether you want to move to another city, I mean, major decisions, even small decisions, are based on our beliefs. And when it comes to the INTP, their God, quote unquote, is science and, you know, data collection. So these are people who, if let's say you cannot, let's say, prove to it or bring enough scientific evidence, they don't think it is true, which is kind of interesting, because most people might say that it's people who are, let's say, censors, who are more likely to be atheists because they base their decisions on the five senses. But you'll see that the INTP is one of the personality types that is most likely to be an atheist, and obviously that will be an area where the INFJ and the INTP will have problems, get along. The other point of discord may be the fact that they have different relationship styles. So the INFJ has a feminine and orderly type, which means that the main goal is to feel connected with their mate. So they like to spend a lot of time with their mate. They talk every day. They're physically affectionate and so forth. Whereas the INTP has a masculine and spontaneous relationship style. It has to do with accuracy. So they're very much interested in whether or not whatever they're being given in terms of information or even in terms of life experience, is it accurate? So they're not as in touch with their feelings, they're not as affectionate, and so the INFJ will not be able to bond well with the INTP. And also with the INFJ is that this is a people of reachable, reliable, and so forth, whereas the INTP is more likely to engage in different activities if they like it. So the INFJ might feel that they cannot lean on the INTP as much as the INTP can lean on the INFJ to get things done. So when they're let's say scheduling or even like day-to-day activities or tasks, the INFJ might end up having to do most of the daily tasks in terms of like cleaning and grocery shopping and making sure that everything runs well logistically. The other point where they might have issues is that the INTP likes to debate, and for them it is a hobby because they like to sort of like take an idea, dissect it, and find any type of inconsistency, because this is something they really enjoy. It's part of like having an introverted thinking as their first function. Whereas for the INFJ, unless it's something very important, they don't want to just argue just for argument's sake, just to debate. So that might be an issue in terms of how they are talking to each other or finding areas where they need to discuss. For them, for the INFJ, it has to be important to go into a long debate, and again, it's different for the INTP, the way they perceive it. So generally speaking, I would say that the INFJ and the INTP will not really mesh really well. The reason being is that although they are both intuitives, they are both introverts, the people who like to explore abstract ideas, the INFJ will be able to understand, in terms of math and science, that aspect of the INTP. But the fact that one is a masculine energy, the other one is a feminine energy, that might be an issue, because feminine energy, they want to bond, they want to be close, especially when someone has, just like the INFJ, a feminine and orderly type of relationship style. So these are people who really want to bond with their partner, and they won't feel they're able to do that with the INTP, because for the INTP, math and science, actually science is their god, and they really base most of their decisions on rationality or reason, which is different from the INFJ. So that will be an issue in terms of even how they organize their lives. The INFJ is very organized, like to get things done, when the INTP might like to do things at the last minute because they have a masculine, spontaneous way of organizing their lives. And again, as I said, the INTP likes to debate, whereas the INFJ doesn't find that it's a fun activity. It's not a hobby for them. So for all these, I would say that they would fare well, let's say, if they were maybe in a work situation where they have to maybe work on a project or things of the sort. But I wouldn't say that they would be best friends or great lovers, or people who really feel that they can connect romantically. So let me know if you agree or disagree with this romantic compatibility analysis between INFJs and INTPs by commenting below. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, please click on the like button, subscribe to my channel, and we will talk soon.